Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. And we have a special guest in the house. I love when people help people write books because I believe we all have books in us and we want to get them out. So, Jackie, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast.
That sounds wonderful. And thank you, Pete, so much for having me. I always appreciate connecting with high performance coaches like yourself. And this is great synergy. I am Jackie Haley, an author, award winning author. Just got a new recent award. So I'm very excited about that. But I'm also the founder of Dream to Author, where we help people write, publish, and market their first book. A lot of times, it's the first book that's really the stumbling block because people are just learning how to do it. But once they learn that process, they can share their message and change lives. They can see that impact and get their ROI. And they're oftentimes doing book 2, book 3, book 4, and continuing that journey. So it's fantastic to see.
I love it. My partner who's up in Canada, he's written well over 300 books.
Exactly.
And he's helped me write a half a dozen. So I
Mhm.
understand the value of it, but I grew up dyslexic. So writing was not my friend, but I went to a school and she taught me about voice to text or dictation. And it changed my life because I always, when would write, it looked like shorthand. So, what do you think for the people you work with? What holds them back from moving to write that first book?
Yeah, there are generally 3 big obstacles that really hinder people from moving forward. First, that lack of time. We have too many things in our day, right? We're taking care of our house, our family, our school. We're volunteering at our church. We're doing so many things. There are only so many hours. So they think, okay, writing an entire book, it's going to take too much time. And they just don't even start because they think it'll take too much. That is completely a myth. If you have 4 hours in a week, you can get your book and get published in the next year. It can happen. And we've proven that over and over again. We've actually worked with hundreds of writers in 7 countries and over 15 states in the US move forward with their story. But this one has been a big one. The lack of time, the lack of knowledge. How do I start a book? How do I get that? Why would anyone um, get hooked in? What is that I'm really trying to say? And how do I structure it and make sure that I know that I'm writing something good, writing something that will engage the audience? So that is another thing, that lack of know-how, just getting started, getting through the outline process or figuring out what that message should look like and be quality for the book market. That's another thing. And the third biggest obstacle that I'm seeing is that lack of confidence, where we get so many people that go, well, I want to write my story. Uh, I had this stroke. I had to relearn everything and blah, 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 but I made it through and I just want to share those lessons. But who would want to read what I have to write? Or I have this amazing experience that I've gone from here to here and I want to share this, but that might be too much of a vanity project for me, or it might be like I'm boasting, and people stop because number one, they think no one will want to read what they have to say, or they just feel like they're being too showy, and they don't want to give that impression. So that confidence issue is a big one too.
Yeah, I've done probably 500 podcasts, and I'm in the Rotary Club, which we
Yeah.
probably serve better than any club around in our projects. And early on, I'd ask people, I said, would you like to be a guest on my podcast? And I'd hear, no, it's not my thing. And when I started digging, what I found, people that serve, they don't want the light on them.
Yeah.
They want to just serve. They're
Yeah.
not, and they think that if you're on a podcast, you're wanting to be an influencer like the Kardashians or
Mhm.
the influencer out there. But what I discovered is if we don't shine out, people can't shine in. So our story, like we said before we came on, can inspire people. And we're just not thinking about if we are a best kept secret and our story is up here and not out in the world, how can anybody benefit from your
Amen.
journey? So
Amen.
what was the first book like when you said, okay, I want to be an author? Can you take us back to that moment?
You're gonna laugh, Pete. I've got a wonderful story on my my first book journey. So we were it was right around the housing market crisis, and so we were family planning, but we knew, boy, we with this crisis going on, we need to get our house on the market. It's going to take forever to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So we were. Uh, Ironically, it sold in no time, and all of a sudden, we are building our new house. Uh, Family planning. I had a 2-month old and a 16-month old, and we're living in my in law's lovely basement for 6 months. And they are the best people in the world. But that gives you an idea, if I can paint a picture of how crazy that was at that time. So I needed a stress reliever, and I was either going to drink too much wine or start writing. So I had to do one or the other. So I just got to work. I wanted to do something just to escape the madness and all the fun things, but it was a lot. And I started writing about a character. And once I started the process, I started really truly enjoying what I was coming up with. Just from the story standpoint, it was really a good escape and therapeutic, if you may. And with that process, one page turned into 47 pages, turned into 147 pages. And then I had found out that a good friend of mine was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where my motivation came in. And that's rule number one is finding that motivation to get that book done. That's what really drives us. We keep that motivation in front of us. So I had that motivation. I'm going to finish this book, publish it, and I'm going to name the main character after my friend, and I'm going to dedicate this book to her. So that gave me the motivation, the determination to move forward. But I knew I needed the help, so I got that editor, and it took me 2 years of revisions to get that book into a place where it was something I could feel comfortable submitting to a publisher. So with that entire process, I learned so much, but I went through those struggles. But we were going to do a book launch party with my friend's 40th birthday party. Unfortunately, she passed away a few months shy of her 40th birthday. So we did a dedication instead and raised money for the Cancer Society in her honor. So that was it was good. It was fulfilling. It was a great way to remember her and dedicate that book. And we just had fun. That's what she was about. She was about having fun. So,
Yeah, I think deadlines are so powerful
mhm,
that we have to figure, because if we think we have all the time in the world, we never get things done.
that's
And
so true.
it's like, and when I had a stroke almost 4 years ago, and I had 49 days to think, and it just kind of changed the way I thought about life, about anything. And I felt like I tell people, like, every day I think it's going to be my last. I live it that way because
Yeah.
one day I'm going to be right. But to have that sense of urgency
Mm,
has been powerful in how I approach it every day. And
mm,
so I do have that not deadline, but just that sense of urgency, because we're actually not here very long if it gets down to it. So
very
just
true.
saying I got plenty of time to write a book. I'll do it someday, and I hear that a lot. And I
Yes.
say, when someday, someday can
It's
be now. Yeah. So what do you think when you start working with a client? Take us through, like, how do you get them, like, winning an award obviously is a big thing, and I want to ask you about that in a second, but give us a little bit of our community, the journey. What's the journey like when you're working with people? They have that idea and now they want to get it out in the marketplace.
So we are very dedicated, and this is why I feel like we are as successful as we are, because we are dedicated to customization. Every author, we don't want to fit them in a box. We need to know what their author goals are. What one gentleman wanted to write a book about his family or his legacy to share with generations in his family to come, versus another that is releasing a thriller that wants to be the next James Patterson. Those are completely different journeys, completely different ways that we lead you through to make sure that that message hones in on that target audience and is successful. That is our goal. We don't want you to just write a story. We want you to write a story that's engaging, that's going to grab that audience, that they're going to close a book and talk to their friends about it and say, you have got to read Pete's book. This
Mhm.
is amazing. Those are the things that we go for. And so when we're taking a deep dive and coaching, we're going to go, okay, what are these obstacles? How do we transition these concepts? How do we get from one chapter to the other and make sense for the author? Take them on that journey. And
Mhm.
so when we do that, we get an end product that really has an amazing time in the market. It's a successful, and they have the confidence because we have teams that are working with our authors to not only review and give feedback, but also help them through the next stage of not only writing, but publishing and marketing. So we start with author goals. Long story short, we start with author goals. We find that journey. We make sure that their story is worthy of a book and that it's grabbing that target audience and truly is an amazing journey and story for that audience member. And we help them every step of the way after that. So that's what makes it that's what stands us apart from others.
I love, when I wrote my first one, it was a dictation book, and my
Yeah.
partner has the framing of it. But you know what? I've had a couple of authors on, and they not all of them say this, but it's kind of like when we can get feedback, it's powerful. And so as you're writing a chapter, you have, a chapter team they're there to read it, give you feedback, give you perspective. Are you saying like that's part of that journey, that they're they're releasing one chapter at a time to a group of people, and then that group of people are reading it and giving you feedback? Is that what
Well,
I'm hearing?
we guide them through. Our team are experts. Like, for example, my team lead editor, she has written and published over 120 books. She has 35 million in print worldwide and
Hmm.
decades of experience. She's the one that completely destroyed my first book here, Crystal Beach. But once I got through that process, in that editing process with that particular expert, I not only got a publishing contract offer, but I got an endorsement from the largest newspaper in my state for that
Hmm.
first book. Those
Hmm.
are the things that we want to see come through on each of our clients. And so our experts, their services, she does a full manuscript edit, developmental editing, copy edit in the process that we take through those programs. When it comes to beta readers, what you're talking about is just getting a group together. We
Hmm.
have done group coaching. We also in the program show people how to get their own beta readers because we're working with people worldwide. So
Hmm.
we are having them find their own individuals, who to ask, what qualifies them as a beta reader, and what questions to ask. We have templated questions because we want to make sure that they're getting the right information, the right feedback, so they can make those changes. Where are they engaged? Where are they connecting with your story? Where are they bored? Where are they confused? All of these things we want to make sure that we're nailing down throughout the entire book. So yeah, we guide them through their own process on that. Mhm.
Hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, do you know, I'm a big fan of Daniel Priestley, and he talks about like when you're like going on a journey, people are trying to get to know, like, and trust you online.
Yes.
And a lot of times, if they're not ordering your book, they're not getting to know you. And he also talks about awards,
Hmm.
because we look for credibility. Like a book's an authority, it's a credibility piece.
It is.
But awards is another level of it.
Mhm.
So talk to our audience about, what does that award mean to you, and how did you pursue that to be recognized?
Yeah, I have had several awards. I'm very humbled by everything that I've received. My publisher had submitted me to a few book contests that he thought my third book in particular, would be a fitting thing. My third book is called Brenda's Wish. It's about a woman that passed from ovarian cancer, but left a gift for her family that they received 2 years after she passed. It's an actual narrative nonfiction, so it's a true story based on true events. That book has received Book Excellence Award and Reader View Award. And I know we have tons of submissions for those two contests. The one I just received for that today, not today, it was last week, was 2025 Best Book Award for Christian / inspirational book. So that was humbling. That contest receives thousands of entries for that entire contest. So there are quite a few in there. That is where that credibility comes into play. But it's always humbling to receive something like that, a recognition for your hard work that you've done. And there are so many out there that have amazing stories. So I consider myself lucky there.
That is awesome. What would you say? Because staying in your genius zone is so critical, and it made a significant difference for myself. I was the person that did everything, and then all of a sudden, I had a small digital marketing business. I have a stroke, and my 5 part-time employees didn't know what to do, and the business just went.
Yeah.
My partner took 2 clients, but everybody else just scattered, including my 5. So what now I'm more smarter or learned my lesson. What would you say is like if I said, all right, Jackie, what's your genius zone? What do you do better than anybody else? And what do you find yourself? Do you struggle with staying in it? Do distractions come into play? But how do you kind of move in that direction of your genius zone?
Are you meaning for the client
Yeah,
themselves
for
or for
yourself. Like if I said, Jackie, what makes you different? What makes you unique? What do you do better than anybody else? What do you find yourself gravitating to?
Well, the world today is very automated, right? And where we shine, in my mind, where we shine is where we are spending time one-on-one with our clients. So
Mm,
we are getting a deep dive into their work, what it looks like, what needs to improve. So honesty, authenticity, those are things that I value very highly.
mhm,
I am not one that wants to just have an automation, put my clients on a conveyor belt, run them through something. We are going to dive into what that is. So I think that we do that very well. And I don't know that a lot of companies that help us, that do what we do it to the level that we do it. I think that we spend an exorbitant amount of time with our clients, as we should. And
mhm.
as a result, we have actually not had any bad reviews on any of our programs. So that's where I feel like we shine. I feel like we are better than most. I know there are amazing companies out there, though. So it really has to be working well for whatever the client needs are. And if the client does not fit into a program or we can't help them, we're going to tell them. We're going to say, hey, you know what? Let me refer you over to blah, blah, blah. For example, children's books. We really don't focus on children's books. So I have resources to help them get the job done in
Mhm.
their way, but use an expert that has that genius zone over there. My genius zone would be fiction and nonfiction books. I have 2 fiction and 2 nonfiction books out now.
Mhm.
So those are where we shine, and we have the experience, decades of experience to show for it. So that's where I feel we stand out.
Awesome. That is so good. Yeah, I have a gentleman, it's in my church, and he's I mean, when he first visited, I don't know, 6, 9 months ago, he just had a vibrant personality, curious, engaging. I mean, and so I was amazed when I had him on the podcast finally, because I kept asking him, and he said, "Hey, I'm busy," and he does like video for In Touch Ministry, and he writes books, children's books. But he sent me a video, and it was just how he writes a book and how he uses technology to write. It was fascinating to see how he speaks, how he speaks with words, about characters and keeps them and
Mhm.
then edits it. And he showed me this. I was just blown away by anybody that has figured out, and he has at least one children's book out. But I guess my question is like, what do you do to keep growing? Like, being in business is not easy and it's hard. And how do you keep growing your business? Do you have favorite people mentors that you have identified out there? Do you like certain books, or just give us an idea of how Jackie grows?
Yeah, I think one of the key elements too is marketing, getting our visibility out there quite a bit more. But the way we've grown is a lot of it has been referrals. So
Mm,
clients that have worked with me before know how we work, go, oh my gosh, I have a friend. This person needs to talk to you. A lot of people in my network, this is really how Dream to Author started, is I kept getting questions after publishing my first book and second book. How did you do that? How did you start your story? Can you help me with mine? Can you help me look at this? Can you review my story? And so that kind of evolved from my network. I have a background in a political background. Essentially, I was a lobby association vice president for a statewide association. And so I have some clients that are current congressmen or former congressmen or that have worked in the Pentagon or, high profile speakers and things like that. So those clients have other networks and they're spreading the word as well. So
mm.
we've had quite a few go uh, join our team as far as clients go, and that has grown our business substantially. We're having a blast doing it because they know that we're going to take care of their clients. So,
Yeah, that's great. I
yeah.
had a congressman come speak to our Rotary, and I'm drawn. Oh, Barry Laudermilk was the person that spoke, and he wrote a book called "And Then They Prayed," and
Mm,
it was a book on history, but how important prayer was in the journey of history. And I couldn't put the book down. I'm not a speed reader, but I am. Well, I'm faster than I used to be.
yeah.
But I mean, I went through that book so fast because it was interesting. The characters were great. I don't know who helped him. Usually you got to have help if you write a book like that. And I don't think he's written other books, but I don't know for sure. But you're right about that story when it captivates you and it just takes you through a journey. And you almost like, I could see myself there at the events and all the different events through history. My question is like, when you look at community, what does that, how does community help you in what you do? And do you intentionally do something with the idea of community?
Oh, we have, yes, absolutely. There are organizations, writing groups that I've been a part of, supporting, sponsoring. Of course, we have book fairs on Main Street and things like that we want to take advantage of.
Hmm.
And be a panel speaker for the book festivals and things like that. Being involved, I think, is in giving back in that way, where people can come up to you, ask questions. Maybe they just need one or two questions answered before they can move forward or feel like they can move forward with their story. And if I can help them do that, that is huge. And that is a really fun way to do that. But you're also, it's selfishly, it's a visibility as well, right? You're increasing your visibility and your company name and know, like, and trust. And
Hmm.
so that is a huge tool too. So it's definitely a benefit any way you can be involved with the community.
Wow. Have you found that with your kids, having you being an author, has that inspired them to think about that? Or are they at the age where that would be something they would consider?
I have a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old. And so, at that age, teenagers don't want to have anything to do with their parents, right? So
Yes.
they get a little excited when I'm on an NBC interview or Fox News or
Yeah.
CBS interview or something like that. I've done that several times. So they kind of like to tell their friends a little bit about that. I
Yeah.
understand, I hear, but yes, it's they in their own way, they're taking their own storytelling to a different level. They're, for example, one of my oldest, he wants to create video games, as do a lot of kids that age.
Mhm.
Um, so he's creating his own story, backstory to his video game, his own
Hmm.
lore, for example, that he wants to use. So that storytelling, he asks me questions about that every once in a while. So
Ooh,
yeah, they have that creative side. And I'm super proud of both of them. They're both amazing kids. So we have a
yeah.
good time.
The world's changing rapidly.
Yeah.
AI is going to
Yeah.
flip the world upside down. You and I, we have more life experiences, lessons. How are you preparing your sons for this rapid change that's coming? And are they asking you any questions? Are you helping them in other way, in a way that gives them a perspective that could help them in this rapid change?
Um, yes, I mean, we're constantly talking about it. I think communication is number one important, and that falls into every aspect of my life, from business to home, at the home. As long as we're communicating, hey, we just saw this happened, or this child in school was, you know, got hacked, or there were images photoshopped and spread and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this stuff is happening right now, and AI and everything is playing a role in that. So keeping them informed on what's going on and asking what is going on in their school is, I think, imperative to just make sure that we're addressing anything that might be questionable, might be
Mhm.
an issue. I think every kid is going to have those stumbling blocks. And as parents, we have to watch. I know this day and age, we are seeing so much technology come through that the kids have access to that they can pretty much do anything. Um,
Mhm.
that wasn't the case when I was growing up, but I had other tools that my parents were worried about. And I know that there is a well, this is there's no book because we're constantly experiencing something new every generation. So I think communicating about it, talking about consequences, and talking about good ways to use new tools. If they want to be on social media, how are we going to monitor that and make sure that they're not getting themselves in trouble or connecting and giving personal information to a complete stranger that will end up, coming to this house and, robbing us? Who knows? It's very scary, honestly, these days. But I think every parent goes through that stage.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I mentor up at the local high school, and so I have them from freshman to senior, and I'm into the sophomore year. But when I first, like, this was when they were freshmen, and it's a John Maxwell program, but it's called Habitudes, and the habit at that time was relationships. And I had been talking to my banker, and she had a teenage son, and she made a comment like, asked him like, how many people do you know in your class? And her son said like he knows nobody by their first name. And so I'm
Oh,
thinking of that. I go into the class, and I'm kind of like, we're teaching relationship and just building relationships, communication. And so I said, how many people do you know by first name in the class that you've been? And it was like one, maybe two. So I just had them turn to each other and introduce themselves and ask them a question like, what do you like to do when you're not at school? Whatever. But the teacher said like they were in COVID at sixth and seventh, and they didn't develop like, there's still a social component to if you're always texting. I know when I was growing up, we had rotary phones, and you had to
yeah,
call and get a date, and it was like you'd
exactly.
hang up before he would never would answer because you were scared of
Right.
that engagement, but it taught you, to be a little bolder or whatever. But
Yeah.
now you can text, you can go on social, and it's more comfortable. Do you see your do you see your sons with that? transition of communicating, have they learned from you? Do they ask you questions? Are they more geared towards connection, or has texting affected the way they connect?
I think it's affected everybody that communicates on a social level, and our kids are no different. We have them text. They don't want to talk on the phone anymore. We're all about texting
Yeah.
or just emoji land. I mean, we gotta have emojis in every message. But yeah, they they do communicate still on conversation, normal things. So I think it's just a matter of just the different tools that we're using
Yeah.
and the different way that we're speaking. But the message is still getting across. They're still enjoying visiting with others. And that was my main goal, is making sure that they're not afraid to
Mm.
move forward and communicate in some way. But we used to knock on doors of our neighbor's house, say, hey, can Sally come out and play or whatever, when we were, younger.
Yeah.
And these guys don't, that you don't do that. It's that's just unheard of. They just they wouldn't know what to do. So now it's, they're going to text, or they're going to be on Discord or some
Mhm.
platform, and they're going to communicate while they're playing a video game, or they're going to communicate, or they're going to, they'll go to a football game together. But a lot of times you're seeing a lot of kids on phones. So
Mm.
it's just very different. It's very different. And we have to go with it, but try and keep them safe at the same time. It's constant battle, which is why we all, have those moments of, oh my goodness.
Yeah, there is, like, I have 2 daughters and 6 granddaughters, and so,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know,
You're out.
so surrounded by girls and 2
Yeah.
sisters, so I kind of like, I don't know what I would do if I had a son, but I do know that, like, I'll get a text from my daughters, and I just pick up the phone call because I would rather talk
Yeah.
than, and I'm not a good, I can voice text, but
Yeah.
I just feel the emotion is in the conversation.
Yeah.
So it just has, but yes, they're used to communicating a certain way,
Yeah.
and we didn't grow up with texting, but now that's part of life. And so you have to adapt, change, and just find ways to connect and communicate. What would you say, like, as as a parent, what has been the biggest challenge in raising your boys?
Oh my goodness, biggest challenge. They're boys. So I heard actually, and this is, I don't know if this is true because I don't have any daughters, but I heard that boys are easier than girls. I always joked and said, well, God only gives me what I can handle. So he gave me two boys. They have been amazing boys. The biggest challenge, what works for one child does not work for the other.
Mm.
So finding the balance while being fair is probably one of those things where, we have to struggle every day. It's back to square one. Just when we think we've got it, and we're like, hey, we've got a path. They know what to do. They've got their lessons. We're good to go. They're brushing their teeth. They're doing all the things. They're making their bed. And then something happens, or they grow up, and then we're back to square one. Okay, how do we do this now? We have new challenges. So I think that I would have a much bigger challenge if I didn't have my husband with me to help. We're very much a team
Mhm.
in the parent department, and that has made it uh, night and day difference, I think, than if I were to be alone. So those the challenges are there, but I'm very blessed. I always count my blessings every day about what we have and what we're dealing with.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, do you miss your association with the political part of when you were doing that with the association? Because today politics is, man, it is like so middle. It's
Interesting,
like,
right?
uh,
Yes.
so do you miss any of that, or is it kind of like you like that chapter, now you're on to something else?
Well, along the same vein of communication and relationships, I will always treasure the relationships that I've developed professionally
Mm,
throughout my entire career, and I still keep in contact with quite a few. So that has been a blessing. I just have as far as Dream to Author goes, where we're helping people with their first book.
mhm,
That is where I'm not working a day in my life. That is
mhm.
absolutely fun, amazing, fulfilling work, and I know that that's where I'm supposed to be. But my network in the political arena, I still get the updates. I'm still going to events. We're still very much involved, and I'm appreciative for that. It's good to keep up to date. It's good to figure out what is working and how we can play our part to support policies that are going to help America.
Yeah,
And we need to do that. And we need to guide those legislators from the state and federal level. We need to help them understand what we're going through. And I think
yes,
that's important without starting all the fights. Let's
yeah,
just talk about how can we make it better and
yes.
make it work, and what are things that we can do to help rather than just point the finger and blame. So that's where I don't mean to go political, but yeah, I
No,
think
no, I
that that is
just the
part of it.
perspective of
Yeah.
being so close, then but that's great. I love that answer.
Yeah.
So I want to be respectful of your time, Jackie. So tell our viewers, and then I have one final question. How can they get a hold of you?
Yes, you can contact me. Feel free to go to dreamtoauthor.com, or you can email me directly at jackie@dreamtoauthor.com. If you have an idea, if you've had this story in your mind, but you just don't know how to move forward, let's just have a conversation because I can answer those burning questions, help you move forward. Maybe that's all you need. But if you need a little bit more, we can talk about that too. But we are here to help you. And if you have a story that's worthy of a book, I encourage you to share it. Let's make this world better, sharing great messages, inspiring stories, helpful stories, entertaining stories. Let's make this world an amazing story itself. That's
Well,
my little fun thing.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank
So
you so
one
much for
final
having
question.
me. Yeah.
Yes, you've been a real pleasure. I knew it just knowing when I looked at what your background was, and when I read the questions, I said, "Man, I can't wait
Well,
till," because
thank
I
you.
just
As well.
love the because I lived in a senior facility for almost 2 years, and I would hear because I would always say, what's your book? What's your story? What, get it out. And I had people just writing away with no real plan of getting it published. And it was like, get that thing out, get it out of your head, get it into the world. Your
Yes,
kids will love it. The world will love it, but it can't help anybody in your head. It's got to be out.
exactly.
So,
Ex-
what would you say the one thing that you would want our podcaster community to take home from this time on the podcast?
If you have burning questions about a story, if you want to know what it takes to be a successful author, it is one simple Zoom call. Just contact me. Let's get that conversation started. And no pressure and no, this is a safe place to get answers and just start the journey. And if you have ever had that feeling, go for it because it is waiting for you to tell your story.
Awesome. I love that. I always like to say the journey of 1,000 miles is that first step.
Yes,
First
it's
step
the
is like
hardest is that first step.
leaning into it. It's just like it's not as hard, but if you don't make the first step, can't make the second step.
It's
So,
so
Jackie, thank
true.
you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time and for sharing what the your journey with us. We really appreciate you.
Well, and if I may add, I mean, Pete, I really appreciate what you're doing because you are out there doing a wonderful job with this podcast and sharing stories. Again, it's helping people, it's inspiring people. So I want to say congratulations and thank you to you for doing this. This is a great effort, and I am so excited to be on here. So thank you for having me.
I receive it. Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate you. All right. Thank you, Jackie.